I really wish people would stop saying that art is a talent. And I kind of feel like an asshole when I think it, but it just really irks me. Honestly, the whole concept of talent is way overrated and way too glorified anyways, especially when it comes to something like art. Now, this isn't a new idea or anything, but it's something that comes up every now and then. And while there are much smarter people out there who have much more coherent explanations about everything I want to talk about here, this is, after all, my channel where I get to brain dump all my ideas out into the open in the off chance that it'll resonate with someone. So I'm gonna do it anyways, even if it's already been done. Besides, even if something's already been done, it doesn't mean that it should stop being discussed. If anything, I feel like maybe part of the issue of this myth of talent is precisely because it doesn't get talked about enough. So let me back up a bit before I get ahead of myself again. Like a lot of my thoughts and ideas, this whole train of thought probably starts with me being pedantic about the usage and definition of a word. In this case, the word talent. What I want to point out in this video essay is that talent and skill are two different words that mean different things. And while they may often be used synonymously, they also aren't. And I, for one, am a person who strongly believes that the words we use matter. And in fact, I have another video where I get pedantic about a different word. And don't get me wrong, I'm fully aware that when someone calls another person talented, it's meant as a compliment. Like, I get it, I really do. And despite what it may seem like from all my videos starting out with a definition of a word or term, I actually don't go around in my normal day-to-day and correct anybody who uses a word incorrectly, because really, that's not worth my time anyways, and I have other things to do, like getting a snack, or apparently ranting about it in a YouTube video instead. My main problem with chalking up someone's aptitude for something to mere talent is that it is, frankly, a little demeaning. It completely ignores the fact that art, like pretty much everything that we as humans do and achieve, is a skill. Any number of self-help or self-improvement media will remind us that nobody was born knowing how to walk or talk. We had to learn it, sometimes even with great difficulties. But for the most part, we have all done it, however long it took us. And in fact, we all know that these things take time to learn. So by saying that someone's artistic abilities are merely due to talent or some inherent or natural aptitude that only a select few people are born with, it's overlooking the amount of time and effort the person has put into reaching that level of aptitude in the first place. We don't tell someone that they have a talent for walking, so why do we do it when it comes to other abilities, like art? Like much of human psychology, I think this comes down to many reasons. But since this is just a silly video on YouTube and not a scientific paper or a thesis, I'll focus on just 3 of these things. Issue number 1. We want the reward. Sometimes we say we want things, but in our heart of hearts, we actually don't. We're just presuming that it's normal to want these things. I've definitely fallen victim to this many times. I say I want to sell my art at a convention or a market, but do I really? After some long introspection, I realized that I actually don't, because if I had really wanted to do it, I probably would have taken the steps towards that long ago. And yet I never did, and only more recently, after reflecting on it, did I come to realize why I was avoiding it. I just really did not want to do it. And that's okay. And similarly, it's perfectly normal to say that you want to become a better artist. Like, I can say that I want the latest and shiniest new iPad, but do I actually truly want it? Or am I just saying I do because that's what I'm told I should want as a result of advertising? Okay, so maybe a little bit of column A, but definitely a huge scoop of column B. Going back to the example of my saying that I wanted to sell at art markets and conventions, it was partly because it just felt like something I should be doing as a full-time artist, and partly because it's been glamorized so much on social media. There are plenty of other commentaries out there right now about the lifestyle of an artist rather than the art itself being overly glamorized on social media, so I won't go into that here. Not yet anyways, it might be a future rant. But I don't think it's all that unusual either. It's just the same as people wanting to become famous movie stars or athletes, because the lifestyle of those careers are so seemingly desirable. But when it comes down to it, how many of us truly want to be an A-list actor or an Olympic medalist athlete? And more importantly, how many of us are willing to put in the work to achieve that goal? Which leads me to issue number 2. We don't want to do the work. Let's stick with the example of world-class athletes. While some are born with a certain propensity for their sport of choice, being born talented in swimming, basketball, or anything else is not enough for them to become proficient in their respective field. They still have to put in time, and so much time, to practice and develop their skills. And while the 10,000 hour rule has been debunked, there is still a nugget of truth deep in that flashy, arbitrary saying. In order to improve a skill, it must be practiced. With that said, I'm not trying to say that all it takes is practice, but it's still a big component. As I said before, there are people way smarter than I am who have gone deeper into what kinds of practice are most effective, because like people, not all practice is the same. But that's beyond what I'm here to talk about. The fact that I'm highlighting here is that regardless of what the skill is and how it is practiced, it takes time and effort. And honestly, a lot of us aren't willing to put in either of those things for skills that we actually don't care about. We aren't truly willing to put in the amount of time needed to develop a skill to a level that we merely say we want. So we make up excuses to help us feel better about failing to achieve those levels. It's fine that I'm not a master artist, I just don't have the talent. When really, it's more like, I'm not a master artist yet, because I haven't put in the time and effort to become one, and deep down, I don't actually want to. So we turn to the notion of inherent talent as an excuse. Why bother doing it when we just don't have it, whatever that it factor is? Despite all of this, I do acknowledge that innate ability does have some effect on a mastery of a skill, including art. But I believe that it's a much smaller and much less significant factor than we tend to give it. Talent might give a certain degree of a boost, but it's not enough to reach the top. Yet, a lot of people still tend to attribute mastery to that inborn capability, and only that. But of course, it's never that simple. Which leads me to the last point. Issue number 3. Perceived ease. There's a phrase that an expert is someone who makes something difficult look incredibly easy. And I think that's exactly this perceived ease that is behind what a lot of people will attribute to talent. They see an artist make a portrait in a few strokes of their pencil and think, wow, I could never be that good. They have a talent for art and I don't. But I bet if you asked the artist, they wouldn't say that their skill was solely due to talent. It probably took them years, if not decades, to hone and refine that skill so that they are able to make a portrait from a couple pencil lines. Not just because they were born into the world with an innate ability to just be able to do portraits. I mean, I don't imagine that they're born holding a pencil either. Yet there doesn't seem to be a similar assumption of some nebulous gift when it comes to something more physical, like playing a sport. Even if there is truth in the fact that there may be some people who are just born to be better at something like swimming, we don't just assume that they only rely on this innate talent. It's pretty universally understood that they also have to put in a lot of time training, too. So why doesn't that seem to apply to something like art? My completely unscientific armchair psychology hypothesis is that it's because we can't really see the way that an artist trains, like a swimmer does. Yes, obviously doing a ton of drawings is a big part of that practice, but a lot of art practice is also invisible. I'm of the opinion that you can still be studying as an artist by going out and sitting on a park bench and looking at the trees or people watching. Obviously, to an outsider, they could just as easily assume that I'm just taking a break and not actually doing anything. And this doesn't just apply to art either. Even just looking at my previous job, there would be many more hours I'd be sitting staring at the monitor reading up on something, rather than actually writing code. I wasn't just slacking off, I mean, not always anyways, but I was actively learning. But obviously it's hard to know that, much like how it's hard to know that my staring at that cyclist isn't just me daydreaming, but studying. I'm trying to figure out how bicycle and human work together in a physical 3D sense, and then trying to find a way to represent that in 2D. Even if I don't actually sketch it out in the moment, though of course it always helps, I'm still practicing my art and trying to get better. At least I'd like to think so. All that to say, a lot of what people seem to simplify as talent is actually closer to mental practice that is much more ambiguous. And it makes sense if you think about it from the way that we measure practice. How much time you spend in the pool doing laps and how hard you work during that time is much easier to gauge than how long you spend preparing to do a painting. Not to mention, there are a lot more parts to it that are just as vague, like learning anatomy or composition, whereas it's clearer to understand that a swimmer is practicing a breaststroke or a butterfly stroke or any other thing. I'm not a swimmer, can you tell? It's much easier to see the practice that goes into a swimmer's gold medal winning lap than the practice that goes into a masterpiece painting. I could go on and on about this whole thing, and in fact, while writing all of this, I probably got at least 2 future video essays that go deeper into this whole thing. At the end of it though, all I'm trying to say is that I'm not talented in art. You probably aren't talented in art either. I mean, maybe you are, but even if you aren't, that's totally fine. Because being an artist isn't just about talent. It's about more than that. And it's something that even you or I can achieve, as long as we're willing and want to put in the effort, and realize that just because we can't necessarily see the practice that goes into it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. With that said, I should probably stop rambling and actually go do some practice. I want to give a huge thanks to my Shining Star patrons, without whom I honestly would not have the time or probably confidence to do any of this. So big thank you, especially to Prism Pals and Spectral Stars. Your support allows me to continue doing what I do as an artist, despite a lot of it being invisible to the outside eye. So thank you for having the confidence in me. I really appreciate it.